Welcome to No Fun Channel. I'm Felix, and this is sci-fi shows I think they should remake. Up next is TorchWood. TorchWood was a spinoff of Doctor Who. It ran from October 22nd, 2006 to April 4th, 2008 for 2 seasons. It starred John Bowman as Jack Harkness, Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper, Bern Gorman as Owen Harper, Naoko Moria as Toshiko Sato, and Garth David Lloyd as Into Jones. And also in season 1 and 2, we're introduced to Gwen's boyfriend, Rhys Williams, played by Kai Owen. For season 1 and 2, the show is basically the same thing over and over. They fight aliens, there's relationship problems. In season 2, they have Gwen get engaged. They also have Gwen cheating on her boyfriend. And I remember in season 1 and 2, basically, she would tell him and then erase his memory, tell him and then erase his memory. I'm not sure how many times she did that, but I at least know she did it twice. With season 1 and 2, I was not a huge fan. I watched it because I kept thinking it would get better, and in my opinion, it didn't. Which is why I think it only lasted for 2 seasons. Now, by the end of season 2, 2 of the main characters left the show. Bern Gorman and Owen Harper left. Naoko Mori as Toshiko Tashaki. Why do I keep Sato? Sorry, I keep messing up that first name. They left the show, and at that point, it seemed like the show was over. But then they returned for season 3, which was advertised as a miniseries. The miniseries was called Children of Earth, which was a 5-episode run. This show was about aliens making contact with the humans through the children. And they wanted the children. The humans would have to sacrifice the children. The politicians, of course, are trying to decide which children to get chosen. And the politicians turn on another politician, talking about, well, we've chosen your children. And he's like, what? And he's like, it'll look good, you give up your kids. And yeah, well, that politician decided not to do that, and he ended up killing his family and himself. That politician was actually played by Peter Capaldi, who later goes on to become Doctor Who. Now, the thing about season 3, when I watched this, I was involved. I was engaged with it. I liked it. This is what the show should have been about from season 1. I feel like if they had done it this way from the beginning, it would still be going on. Now, at the end of not at the end of the show, but within the series, Into gets killed, and now it's just Gwen and Jack. Now, they go on to do a series 4 or another miniseries. Now, the reason I'm saying miniseries is because I remember season 3 and season 4 being advertised as miniseries, not a new series. Because one of the things about them, if I remember correctly, it came on every day, and so that's why I have such a fond memory of them being advertised as miniseries. Now, for season 4, it was called Miracle Day. I'll be honest with you, I was not a huge fan of Miracle Day. It did not have the same punch as Children of Earth. Children of Earth, to me, hit all the right things. Miracle Day was better than the first 2 seasons of TorchWood. Even if they went this route, the first 2 seasons with Miracle Day, like if they took Miracle Day and that was the first 2 seasons of TorchWood, I think the show would have lasted a lot longer as well. Now, in Miracle Day, Jack is still there, Eve Miles is still there as Gwen Cooper, and Kai Owen is still there as Rhys Williams. And we're introduced to Mekhi Phifer as Rex Matherson, Alexa Havens as Esther Drummond, and Bill Pullman as Oswald Danes. Now, like I said, I wasn't a fan of this one, so I can't remember if they all survived. I feel like they didn't all survive, or someone was a traitor, or something going on. But yeah, I don't remember much about it, to be honest with you. I know it had something to do with everyone became immortal and they had to figure out why, and they fixed it and everything went back to normal. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of it. The most I remember about it is that Mekhi Phifer was a standout was a standout actor in it. You know, Mekhi Phifer can act if anyone's ever seen him act. So he stood out compared to everyone else. So that's probably why I remember him so vividly in it. One thing with this show, I don't recall them mentioning Torchwood too much anymore in Doctor Who after the series. So there's a lot they could do with Torchwood if they were to bring it back. Because right now in Doctor Who, the main thing is they always refer to unit. One thing I had in mind for this was that they were a shadow organization and that the Torchwood we watched was not the real Torchwood. What that was, they were using Jack. They were using Jack as a cover while they went off and did other things. So I was thinking you could do it that way. And you discover that they could even almost like a prequel kind of thing to it as well, where they show that even though Jack was up front fighting aliens, behind the scenes they were doing stuff too that actually helped Jack and that team win their battles. And they could even reference Children of Earth and Miracle Day, and showing how they were a vital part in everything working out. And I thought that would be an interesting take that this Torchwood never went away. It's still there, and it's just in the background where it should be, actually, because they were supposed to be a secret organization that no one knew about. Their job was to do things in the shadows. And so that's why I was thinking they could call it Torchwood Shadows. And it just, they're in the shadows, and they're the real Torchwood, the one that never went down. And it could even have it, because there were other ones where Torchwood got overrun by the Cybermen. And was that Torchwood or was that unit? I want to say it was Torchwood. They could just reference all the other times something happened to Torchwood and be like, that's when Torchwood splintered, because they realized people knew about Torchwood, so we need a splintered Torchwood and have two versions. We can leave the one up front that everyone knows about, and then the one in the shadows, the one that no one knows about. And that's where I came up with the idea for Torchwood Shadows. And then another idea was Torchwood Rebirth. And the reason I call it that is that it'd be about Jack recruiting new people to rebuild Torchwood. Now, move it back to the U.S. because in Miracle Day, they were trying to move Torchwood to the U.S. And I think that's where Miracle Day fell flat, is that they were trying to appeal to a U.S. audience when they should not have. I think they went about it the wrong way. Because to me, Miracle Day felt like they were trying to relaunch the series, and that's why they introduced all these characters, and it just didn't work. Now, Torchwood Rebirth, they could actually, if Mekhi Phifer wanted to, see if he wanted to move to England or wherever Torchwood is filmed, and and do the show again. They could bring back the character Jack and Gwen and Reese, or they could have Reese be gone. Gwen got divorced because Reese remembered everything. It's like, you cheated on me, I'm out. And they could bring in Mekhi Phifer. One of the things I would suggest is not to focus so much on the relationship aspect, because I think they were trying to do like a relationship show in a Doctor Who setting, and it just didn't work. If you want to do a relationship show in a Doctor Who setting, then you should write it that way and leave all the other stuff out and have it or not necessarily leave it all out, but it should have been better. Is what it comes down to. Rebirth is it'd be Jack rebuilding Torchwood, and with that in mind, he could, you could bring in a whole new cast of characters, and they don't have to be main characters. He could just be trying them out. Like half of season 1 could be him trying to find the right fit. And then by the end of season 1, maybe he has 1 or 2 added on to the team, but he's not done looking. And that could be kind of the thing for season 2. But I wouldn't carry that on for too long, but that could be the outline for us, like Rebirth, it's just him rebuilding Torchwood. And then I had a third option. The third option is, since they were trying to do the USA thing, I couldn't think of a better name, but they could call it Torchwood USA, and they could have Mekhi Phifer star in that one. And they could have Jack and Gwen pop up in there, like helping them get everything established, and then they go back to England. Or if they want to stay, they could stay and, be part of the show. But also I was thinking, there's no reason they couldn't do all 3. And what I was thinking is, they could do it sort of in this order. they could have TorchWood Shadows be first, setting everything up, and then the TorchWood people actually reach out to Jack, and they tell him, "Hey, we need you to rebuild your TorchWood institution that you had. We need you to rebuild that." And that's when Jack discovers he was not part of the real TorchWood, and he's kind of mad about that. Like, you could have been helping us, and they like, we were, like, why do you think you survived all those things? And and they can explain to him that that's our job, is to work in the shadows, and that's what we do. And your job is you're the face of it. So, and they have him rebuild, and that's where you get TorchWood Rebirth. But TorchWood Rebirth could then also create TorchWood USA, and the real TorchWood is like, hey, we want to expand more than just being here in this country. You giving us an opportunity with those people you met in the U.S., so we want to create a TorchWood in the U.S. And boom, you got all 3 shows. I think that would be awesome if they could pull something like that off. Creating 3 shows based on 1 show. Instead of just bringing 1 show back, they could create 3 new shows. And each show could have its own strength and weakness. And each show would focus on not the same thing. And then, they can cross the shows. Something's going over here, and they can have it happen here. And then something global, all 3 come together to fight this global entity, this global threat. And then if, let's say, those 3 work out, they could then do TorchWood Japan, TorchWood this, TorchWood, you know what I mean? And I think, and of course, that all comes down to the writing and the acting. I'll be honest, in the first 2 seasons, the acting wasn't all there. Season 3, the reason I said that's how TorchWood should have been is that it was like Eve and John both stepped up their acting, and Garth also stepped up his. It was like they were there to act. And I don't know what happened with the first 2 seasons, but I mean, I still like the show, but I just feel like it could have been so much more. But yeah, just to recap. So you could do a recast, not a recast of characters. I wouldn't recast the characters at all. Like I said, everyone's still alive. Just leave the characters alone. If the actor doesn't return, don't bring the character back. You can, like I said, in any of these, you could have. Now, of course, Rebirth would be focused on Jack. But if John doesn't return, let's say John doesn't come back and Eve does, it can be focused around her rebuilding Torchwood. Or they could still call it Torchwood Rebirth and have someone else be the face of it, rebuilding Torchwood. Like I said, Mekhi Phifer, they could actually set it in the U.S. He's rebuilding Torchwood, the face of it. And, and then he somehow creates a base in England, creates a base in the U.S. And that's how you get to 2, and then still have TorchWood Shadows. So, but I think TorchWood Shadows would be more interesting just because you would get to see them doing stuff in the background the way it was supposed to be. They wouldn't be out as much as Jack and the others. I felt they were out front too much. And for all the stuff they were getting into, they were very, very small team. You should have had almost an army in some cases. It would be an organization with all the connections, able to do all kinds of things. So there's just some ideas that I came up with on how to bring back Torchwood. So that's my take on how to remake Torchwood. You guys take care.